There comes a time in life when God starts pulling back the curtain on people's true intentions. You've been wondering why certain relationships felt so heavy, why certain doors wouldn't open, why certain people kept draining you instead of feeding you. And now God is saying, I'm exposing the ones who smiled in your face but spoke against you behind closed doors. I'm exposing the ones who wanted to use you, manipulate you, and control you. Sometimes the greatest gift God can give you is the gift of sight. I'm not talking about physical eyesight. I'm talking about spiritual sight, because it's possible to see somebody every day and still not see who they really are. It's possible to share a meal with them, laugh with them, plan with them, and still be blind to what's happening beneath the surface. But when God decides to open your eyes, when He decides to pull the veil back, suddenly what was hidden becomes clear. Suddenly that smile doesn't feel the same. Suddenly that voice doesn't sound as convincing. Suddenly the mask starts slipping, and you realize they were never who they pretended to be. That's why exposure is a gift. You may not feel like it when it first happens, because when people reveal their true colors, it hurts. When you thought somebody was your friend, but they were secretly competing with you, it hurts. When you gave someone your heart, your time, your trust, only to find out they were manipulating it for their own advantage, it cuts deep. But let me tell you this, exposure is not rejection, it's protection. God is saying, I love you too much to let you keep walking blind. I love you too much to let you stay tied to someone who doesn't mean you well. You see, narcissists are masters of disguise. They thrive on the applause, they feed off control, and they always want the stage to shine on them. They don't love you. They love the way you make them feel. They don't want to lift you. They want to drain you. They can look like a supporter, but really, they're a saboteur. And if God didn't step in and reveal it, you'd still be dancing to their tune. You'd still be questioning your worth. You'd still be chained to their control. But when God exposes them, He's breaking the chain. I know somebody listening to me right now, you've been asking God, why would you let me see this? Why would you let me find this out? Why would you let me go through this pain? But I hear God saying, I didn't let you see it to destroy you. I let you see it to free you. Because until you see it, you can't confront it. Until you see it, you can't step out of it. Until you see it, you can't move into the next season without dragging dead weight behind you. Exposure is the first step to deliverance. Think about this. Judas walked with Jesus. He sat at the table. He dipped his hand in the same dish. He was trusted with the money bag. But when the time came, his true spirit showed itself. And instead of letting that revelation break him, Jesus used it to fulfill His assignment. What looked like betrayal was really exposure. And what looked like exposure was really preparation. You've got to understand, God is not showing you who people are so you can cry over them. He's showing you so you can step into your calling without the wrong hands on your destiny. And let me tell you something, when God exposes a narcissist, it's not always loud. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it's just a shift in your spirit. You can't explain it, but you just don't feel the same around them anymore. The jokes don't land. The conversations feel different. The trust is gone. That's God pulling back your discernment and saying, pay attention. Because when someone's character can no longer line up with your calling, God will cause a divine discomfort. Don't ignore it. Don't explain it away. Don't keep covering for people who won't change. When God exposes them, believe Him the first time. Don't beg them to prove you wrong. Don't try to force what God is trying to free you from, because exposure is heaven's way of saying, this is not your battle. This is my protection. So I need you to stop crying over exposure and start praising God for it. Every mask He removes is making space for real love, real friends, real destiny partners. Every time He pulls the curtain back, it means He's about to bring you into a season where manipulation cannot follow you. And if you can receive that, you'll understand why exposure, as painful as it feels, is actually the mercy of God. Closing line, when God exposes what was hidden. It may sting at first, but it's always a setup for your freedom, because He would rather hurt you with truth than comfort you with lies. One of the things you've got to understand about God's timing is this: He doesn't always expose people when you want Him to. He exposes them when you're ready to see it. Because the truth is, some of us weren't strong enough to handle it before. If He had shown you earlier, You would have tried to fix them. You would have tried to carry them. You would have tried to justify their behavior. But now, after what you've been through, after what you've survived, God says, you're finally ready to see what I've been protecting you from. You see, narcissists thrive in the dark. They thrive where there's confusion. They thrive when you doubt yourself. That's why their weapon of choice is manipulation. They twist your words. They distort the truth. They make you feel like you're the problem when really they're feeding off your kindness. But what they don't understand is this. When God turns the light on, lies can't live in the light. Manipulation loses its grip in the light. The same mouth that tried to make you feel small is about to be exposed for the poison it's been speaking. Some of you have been walking around carrying guilt that doesn't even belong to you. You've been rehearsing conversations in your head, replaying arguments, wondering, did I do something wrong? Could I have done it differently? And the whole time, you've been questioning yourself when you should have been questioning them. But God is saying, I'm about to lift the fog. I'm about to clear the confusion. I'm about to remind you that you are not crazy. You are chosen. And when you are chosen, you will always threaten a narcissist. Because narcissists need to be the center. They need to be the star. They need to keep you orbiting around their world. But when the hand of God is on your life, you cannot stay small just to keep someone else comfortable. That's why the exposure has to come. Because if he leaves them in your circle too long, they'll suffocate your purpose, they'll drain your confidence, and they'll convince you to settle for less than what he created you for. I want you to notice something. Every time in the Bible, when God was about to elevate his people, he first revealed the hearts of those around them. Joseph's brothers showed their jealousy before Joseph could step into his destiny. Saul's spirit was exposed before David could sit on the throne. Judas revealed himself before Jesus could go to the cross. Do you see the pattern? Exposure always comes before elevation. And if you can endure the heartbreak of exposure, you will soon walk in the breakthrough of promotion. So stop asking God to change people who have no intention of changing. Stop begging for loyalty from people who are addicted to attention. Stop trying to convince someone to love you the right way when they only love themselves. God says, I'm removing the mask, not because I hate them, but because I love you. And I love you too much to let you stay bound to a counterfeit. The exposure may leave you shocked. It may leave you disappointed. It may even leave you lonely for a season. But don't confuse loneliness with abandonment. God is not leaving you. He is making room for better. Because every time he exposes, he's also preparing the ground for new connections, preparing your heart for real love, preparing your path for people who will celebrate your growth, not compete with it. And I know it doesn't feel good right now. It feels like loss. It feels like rejection. It feels like betrayal. But remember this, when God removes someone, he never subtracts without adding. He never exposes without elevating. He never tears down without planning to build something stronger in its place. So don't get stuck mourning over what God has revealed. Move forward, because exposure is just a sign that something greater is on its way. Closing line. Exposure is not the end of your story. It's the evidence that God is clearing the stage so your destiny can finally shine in the spotlight. Here's the 650-word expansion of key point 3 from God is Exposing Narcissists, written in that flowing sermon-style delivery. One of the most dangerous things about narcissists is that they know how to make you doubt yourself. They can drain the very confidence God gave you and make you second-guess your worth. You start questioning your gifts. You start wondering if your dreams are too big. You start asking yourself if maybe you really are the problem. That's their tactic. If they can keep you bound in confusion, they can keep you under their control. But I came to tell you, confusion is not from God. Manipulation is not from God. Control is not from God. And that's why he's pulling the cover back, because his spirit will not let you live under lies forever. When God exposes someone's true nature, he's breaking the spell. He's breaking the grip of those words that made you feel like you weren't good enough. He's breaking the chains of those subtle comments that chipped away at your confidence. He's breaking the cycle of you carrying burdens that were never yours to carry. And suddenly, the moment the truth comes to light, you realize it wasn't you, it was them. You realize you've been carrying shame that didn't belong to you. You realize you've been apologizing for things you didn't even do. But once exposure comes, you can finally put that shame down and walk in freedom. You see, the reason narcissists hate exposure is because their power is in secrecy. Their influence is in the shadows. They thrive on you not seeing clearly. But when God flips the light switch on, when he lets you see them for who they really are, the grip they had on your emotions starts to break. Because once you know the truth, you can't be manipulated the same way again. Once you see the mask come off, you'll never unsee it. And that's the point. Exposure isn't just about revealing them. It's about restoring you. And restoration is exactly what God has in mind for you. Some of you have been living under the weight of someone else's opinion for years. Somebody told you you'd never be anything. Somebody told you nobody would ever want you. Somebody told you you weren't smart enough, strong enough, talented enough. And you carried those words like chains around your neck. But when God exposes the heart behind those words, you suddenly realize that what they said was never about you. It was about their own insecurity. It was about their own brokenness. It was about their own fear of your greatness. Think about David. When Goliath came against Israel, Saul tried to put his armor on David. That was manipulation, trying to make David fight in a way that didn't fit him. But David refused to carry what wasn't his. He said, I can't wear this. And he went out with a sling and a stone, and he won. That's what happens when you stop carrying what narcissists put on you. When you finally see it for what it is and say, I can't wear this anymore. I can't carry this anymore. I won't live under this anymore. That's when victory comes. So don't be afraid of exposure. Don't shrink when the truth comes out. Don't run from it. Because the same truth that reveals them is the truth that heals you. And I know it hurts. I know it feels like betrayal. I know it feels like loss. But what if that exposure was the very thing you needed to break free? What if that moment of pain was the turning point for your purpose? What if God let you see it because he knew that once you saw it, you'd never let it control you again? That's why you can't keep clinging to what God is exposing. If he's showing it to you, believe him. If he's revealing it, trust him. Because every time the mask slips, it's a sign that your freedom is closer than you think. And the moment you embrace it, the moment you accept it, is the moment you step into a new level of strength you didn't even know you had. Closing line. Exposure doesn't just show you who they are, it reminds you who you are, and you are far too valuable to keep living under the weight of their lies. One of the hardest things you will ever have to do in life is accept that not everybody who started with you can finish with you. And when God begins to expose the narcissists around you, that's exactly what he's showing you. There are some people who were never meant to go where you're going. They might have walked with you for a season. They might have smiled at you in public. They might have clapped when you took your first steps, but they were never designed to stay for the long haul. Exposure is God's way of saying, this one can't go with you. That's why separation feels so painful, because you keep trying to drag people into places they were never assigned to go. You keep trying to make someone your partner who was only meant to be a passenger. You keep trying to give someone the role of destiny helper when all they ever wanted was to be a destiny drainer. But when God exposes them, he is cutting the ties for you. He's saying, you don't have to carry them anymore. You don't have to explain yourself anymore. You don't have to keep making excuses for why they treat you the way they do. Exposure is his way of setting you free to move forward without baggage. And here's what I've learned. When God is about to elevate you, he cleans house. He removes the counterfeits. He strips away the pretenders. He cuts away the ones who only clap for you when it was convenient. Because if he doesn't, you'll end up in your next season surrounded by people who don't really love you, who don't really support you, who don't really celebrate you. And God is saying, I'm not about to let your destiny be poisoned by disloyalty. It may hurt now, but later you'll thank him. Later, you'll look back and realize that wasn't rejection, that was redirection. Later, you'll see that wasn't betrayal. Time, that was revelation. Later, you'll understand that wasn't loss, that was deliverance. Because the truth is, you can't discover who's really for you until you find out who's not. And exposure is God's way of separating the wheat from the weeds, the real from the fake, the faithful from the phony. Think about Abraham. God called him to leave his father's house, to leave his kindred, and to go to a land he would show him. And Abraham tried to bring Lot along for the ride. But as long as Lot was there, Abraham couldn't step into the fullness of what God promised him. It wasn't until Lot separated that the vision became clear. That's what happens when you try to keep people who were never supposed to go with you. The vision stays blurry. The promise stays delayed. The blessing stays blocked. But the moment exposure happens and separation comes, clarity follows. And I know some of you right now are fighting the separation. You're praying, Lord, fix it. Lord, change them. Lord, make it work. But what if God is the one breaking it apart? What if the unanswered prayer is the answer? What if the silence from heaven is really God saying, stop asking me to repair what I'm trying to remove? That's why exposure has to come, not to punish you, but to protect you from yourself. Because sometimes you'd rather hold on to the familiar dysfunction than step into the unknown freedom. And God says, no more. I love you too much to let you stay tied to someone who only drains the oil I poured on your life. So don't mourn what he's exposing. Don't fight what he's removing. Don't grieve over what he's cutting away. Because every time he takes someone out, he's making space for the right one to come in. Every counterfeit he removes makes room for the genuine. Every pretender he reveals makes way for the true supporter, the true friend, the true partner who will love you without manipulation. It may feel like loss, but it's actually gain. It may feel like betrayal, but it's actually preparation. It may feel like rejection, but it's actually redirection. Exposure isn't God taking from you. It's God preparing you for what's ahead. Closing line. When God exposes and separates, time, don't fight it. Because he's not taking something away, he's clearing the path for what he's about to bring. When God begins to expose the narcissists in your life, it is not just about revealing them to you. It's also about revealing you to yourself. Exposure is a two-way mirror. On one side, it shows you the true motives of the people around you, but on the other side, it forces you to confront the vulnerabilities inside of you that kept tolerating them. Because sometimes it's not just about what they did, it's about why you let it go on for so long. And that's where the real transformation begins. The truth is, a narcissist can only thrive where there is silence. They can only manipulate when there is denial. They can only control when there is fear. And if you've been under the weight of someone who used your kindness as a weapon, your loyalty as leverage, your love as a trap, you know how exhausting that silence becomes. You know what it's like to smile in public and cry in private. You know what it's like to bend yourself into pieces just to keep the peace. But God says, exposure is him teaching you to find your voice again, to take your dignity back, to stand up straight and say, no more. Because here's the thing, sometimes you don't realize how much you've lost yourself until God shines the light on what you've been living under. You think you've just been compromising, but really you've been shrinking. You think you've just been keeping peace, but really you've been losing yours. And God doesn't just want to expose the narcissist. He wants to heal the part of you that believed you weren't worthy of better. He wants to strengthen the part of you that thought you had to settle for survival instead of living in freedom. And don't miss this, when God brings exposure, he doesn't just call out the lies around you, he breaks the lies inside you. The lie that says you can't do better. The lie that says you'll always need them. The lie that says nobody else will understand you. The lie that says this is as good as it gets. Exposure is God tearing those lies down brick by brick until the only voice you hear is his saying, I called you chosen. I called you loved. I called you mine. You see, exposure is a mercy. Because if God left you in the dark, you would never step into the light of your destiny. If God didn't pull the cover back, you would keep living beneath your worth. That's why it hurts so much. It's not just the loss of who they were. It's the awakening of who you are. And sometimes the scariest thing in the world is not seeing them for what they are. It's seeing yourself for what you've become while tied to them. But God says, I'm not just exposing them, I'm restoring you. And restoration doesn't mean you get back what you lost. Restoration means you come back stronger, wiser, bolder, more resilient than you've ever been before. It means you walk into the next season not as a victim, but as a survivor, not as the broken, but as the healed, not as the silence, but as the one who found your oar again. Exposure is not the end of your story. It's the turning of the page. So don't just thank God for showing you who they are. Thank Him for reminding you who you are. Thank Him for reminding you that you are more than what they called you, more than how they treated you, more than the manipulation they tried to control you with. You are who He says you are. And if God says you're free indeed.